Emergency medical services sirens wail at all hours of the day, whether it's in the dead of night when you are fast asleep or broad daylight when you're in the middle of work. One thing for sure is these services will always be integral to the very core of a population. And when these services are needed, when an emergency occurs, the first professional a patient comes into contact with is usually a paramedic in the ambulance.
The patient can be anyone, from an elderly person that fell and hurt their hip, or a young man who got into a brawl at a bar and got stabbed. Whatever the case, the paramedic's job is to give the patient their best shot at stabilizing them before reaching the emergency room at a hospital. It is almost redundant to mention that paramedics often work long shifts in high-stress life or death situations. Due to the physically and emotionally demanding nature of the job, these professionals are frequently burnt out.
Welcome to First Issues, where tonight we peep into a day in the life of a paramedic. Our paramedic guests are Unkemete Ramolwane and Thapelo Ndingisanyo. Both paramedics studied at the College before joining MRI 4 years ago. Ungemete is the sixth of 7 children. His job entails medical and trauma support.
Thapelo comes from a small village up in the north called Matsitama, but she currently resides in Gaborone. She is from a family of 6, with her being the last born. She shares that she has been under the care of her older brother since the passing away of their mother in 2002, when she was only 6 years old.
Tonight, we find out how our guests figured out that working in the emergency medical services was what they wanted.
I think 9 years back, that's when I met MRI. Back in the village, from my home village in Matsitama. That's where I first saw MRI. I was just fascinated by the uniform. I loved the uniform. I loved the ambulance. And then I decided to approach them and I asked, how can I become one of the paramedics? They told me I need to go through training and school. So that's how I ended up being a paramedic. And today I'm lucky to be working here at MRI. It's actually a dream come true.
Well, for me, I had a passion of helping people who are in need. I'm passionate about my job. I'm passionate about helping other people. I'm so passionate about saving lives. I get so much satisfaction after helping other people. It makes me happy.
Every job, expectations tend to be vastly different from what the reality actually is. How did these two find their experience?
My first impression about the job, I thought it was going to be exciting, fun, and driving at the high speed, maneuvering around the cars and whatnot.
To be quite honest, I expected this job to be quite fascinating and fun, exciting. But, you know, it turns out to be something different. Some cases, not all cases are not fun, exciting. In some cases, you'll find that you'll be responding to an accident scene where you find your family member or your loved one. You know, obviously things changes when you get to see your family and loved ones. But all in all, you have to treat the patient. You need to prioritize on saving the patient's life and send them to the nearest health facility, despite how you feel at that time.
Life in itself can be marred with challenges that need to be overcome. The same can be said about our jobs. What unique challenges can our guests speak to regarding their profession?
Well, there are quite some challenges in my line of work. First, I'll start with the social life. You know, as a paramedic, you get to miss out on life because most of the time you're working on weekends or you're working at night shifts. For instance, you're called out for a call at 3 a.m. You have to leave your kids, you have to leave your husband. You can imagine you'll be stressed. Did they have enough food? Did they have their supper? In the morning, they have to go to school. Who prepares them? You understand? So there are a lot of challenges with becoming a paramedic. We tend to sacrifice a lot in terms of social life. At times, you're out with the friends and you've been called out for a case. So you have to leave the room and attend to the case.
In its nature, the life of a paramedic can be quite uncertain and to some degree chaotic because of how emotionally, physically and psychologically taxing the job is. Fortunately, our guests speak of how access to counseling support services helps them deal with all the chaos.
That's right. You'll find that sometimes you've been called out for an accident scene where there are multiple patients on scene and you're the first responder on scene. And the first thing that you need to do, you need to calm the people around, because when you get to the scene, there are people shouting, help the patient. So you need to make sure that you calm the bystanders and then also attend to the patient. So at times you find that there are many patients on scene and you need to categorize which patient you have to assist first. So you're going to categorize them according to their injuries they sustain. So the critical ones, the ones who are more stable, and then the ones who are already dead. So you will then choose to say, okay, fine, I'll start with this one because they're more critical as compared to this one. They're able to walk to the ambulance. So that's how I tend to manage the scene. Lucky enough, we have a mental practitioner where I work in MRI. So after this type of cases, you go and see a counselor. You de-stress. You tell them how the event went, and how best you can, help you to resolve from seeing that traumatic event. And also I do a lot of exercising that helps me to relax a bit and forget about what happened during the day. That also has been a strategy that I use to overcome those traumatic events.
While on the drawbacks, what misconceptions are there about this line of work?
Gantsi batho ga ba kgone go harologanya between the paramedics le the first aider. But with the paramedics, we did a lot of training. So go na le level tsa di paramedic, go na le basic life support, intermediate life support, and advanced life support. So the training di tsa lebaka go na le the clinical attachment, the simulations where you deal with the real patient o khona go nna le molwetsi o asesa molwetsi le o mo treata jalo jalo.
There are a lot of misconceptions about my job. People perceive paramedics as just ambulance drivers, but it's more to that. Being a paramedic, you have to go through intensive training, intensive study for you to be able to actually help the patient. So it's not just ambulance drivers. And they think that when the paramedics are putting their sirens and lights, they just want to dodge the traffic, which is not true. You find that it's actually a real emergency, and it could be your loved ones, it could be your mother, it could be your child, God forbid. So people must learn to navigate, and they need to pave the way for the ambulance so that it reaches the hospital well in time. Remember, time is critical.
We can acknowledge the challenges while also celebrating the rewards. What can Thapelo and Unkemete speak on as some of what brings them satisfaction and joy within their profession?
The most rewarding thing about my career is, first of all, I'll say it's a dream come true. From seeing the paramedics back in 2013, loving the uniform, loving the ambulance, and now finally becoming a paramedic, it's actually a dream come true. And helping the patient, the satisfaction that I get from people, just appreciating the service that I have provided to them just makes me feel good about myself. So I'll say it's the most rewarding career one can venture into in future.
Well, ga gona sepe se se itumedisang morago go bona gore o kgonne go save botshelo jwa motho mo emergency settings. Tota hela nna ke tshela botshelo jo neng ke bo batla. I'm working a profession e neng ke batla. At the end of the day, I'm living my dream.
Both our guests have been active paramedics for 4 years. So what does the next 4 years look like?
For the past 4 years, I've been working as an intermediate life support. So right now I'm looking forward to work as an ALS, which is a high level from what I've been working for. So with the ALS, we'll be working more on doing a lot of critical patient and doing ICU transfers.
There are quite a lot of career progression in my line of work. Giving example, one can work in the emergency operations center as a coordinating agent that is taking emergency calls and dispatching the right level of crew. One can become a facilitator, that is a trainer teaching health courses that we offer at MRI. One can decide to become a flight paramedic or a critical care paramedic. But I personally would love to be a facilitator, which is I'm currently working on it. I'm currently a basic life support instructor and hoping that next year I'll teach other advanced courses like intermediate trauma life support and pediatric cardiovascular life support. Why do I want to do that? I find that it's expensive because these courses are not here in our country. They're in South Africa, most of them. you find that it's expensive for you to travel there. So I want to bring the resources to the people here in my country so that they can able to access these courses without having to think about accommodation, without having to think about flights and others. So that's why I want to become a facilitator.
First Issues would like to take this time to appreciate the efforts of all paramedics in responding to emergencies to support life. Even then, be reminded to be cautious, especially during this time of festivities that are usually plagued by many life-altering accidents.